G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 16 stock market video. Well, season's almost at an end. We've got 2 more rounds to go. For some of us, we've got some really important prelim finals coming up this week, and for the real lucky ones, we'll have a SuperCoach grand final to play off for the week after. But for me, it's been a really enjoyable season, really frustrating at times, but we've never seen a season like it, and I think we'll look back fondly on this in years to come. For this week, things do look a little bit different. I have replaced a couple of the column. Well, I have included a couple of extra columns, but taken away the notes section column where I normally have those little icons and badges in there. But I have included their round 16 score, so their score from last round, as well as their projected score for this round as well. But remember, with the projected scores, we need to take those with a grain of salt, and I'll explain a little bit more about them when we get into the video. Also for this week, I have not included any of the rookies. My best advice in regards to the rookies is just to see who's playing, look at the team sheets. The bloke I've got up the top there, Barry O'Connor from Sydney, he will not be playing this week, but he's a 102k DPP player. He's a defensive forward, so if you're looking to get someone cheap in, then I would just recommend going for someone that's 102k, hoping that you've got at least one other option on your bench that will be playing that week, just in case, because we never know with laid outs and will teams be resting players. I highly doubt it, but again, we really never know. So in regards to the rookies, I will not be going through the rookies this week. My best advice is to look for the team sheets, see if we've got any debutants, see if people like Greaves from Hawthorn will be playing again. But if you're not too concerned about having a playing rookie and you're just looking to go down to the minimum that you can, then go for someone like a Barry O'Connor who's 102k. That would be my best advice in regards to the rookies this week. The other bloke I've got up there, Jack Payne, I was a little bit worried about him coming in for Harris Andrews, but he played a magnificent game, particularly in that first quarter. He was our best on-ground by far in that first quarter. I think there was 3 or 4 intercept marks. Terrific game, well, second game back from Jack Payne after a tough initiation when we played the Tigers. Jack Crisp, his break-even's really low, but that's another thing I should mention this week. Yeah, don't worry too much about the break-evens because we'll be getting these blokes in for the next 2 weeks, and it really won't matter if they're going up or they're going down in price because we've only got 2 weeks left of the season. And for this week, I have not ordered them in regards to the break-even as well. I've ordered them with the projected score. Again, I will talk about that in a minute. And the men down the bottom there, Dusty, don't know what he's going to do this week, but he's got a high break-even. And Lukosius only scored 35 last week. That was unfortunate for owners, and his break-even is around the 180 mark. But let's get on to it. Let's get into the second last stock market video of the year. So as always, we'll start off with the Defenders 500k plus. You'll notice that the table does look a little bit different this week. I have replaced the symbol or the notes section where I'll have, maybe that pod symbol, the roller coaster, the buy now, the sell. I've replaced that with 2 new columns just for this week. We've got the round 16 score, so that's what they scored last round, and we've also got their projected score as well. Now keep in mind, I want to make this really clear, these are not my own projected scores. I've got these from the SuperCoach site. So yeah, with some of them, I think take with a grain of salt. How do they base it? Well, they base these projected scores off a few things. Their scoring history, I think their recent scoring form, their average from this year, and also their scoring history at that particular venue or that particular ground. So that's what the projected score is based on. Sometimes you'll find that these projected scores are pretty accurate. Other times they are all over the shop. So please take these projected scores with a grain of salt. But what I've done is, instead of ordering them in regards to the break even, going from lowest to highest break even, I've changed it up this week and I've ordered them based on their projected score. So you'll see that the player at the top, the Seagull, he's the highest price player, but he's also got the highest projected score for this week with that 137. So that's the way that the table's going to work just for this week. And into the future, I'm going to look to put that 3-round average in there as well, and the projected score also. So you can see that Instagram section there with the SuperCoach with DR, some of those socials there, that may get replaced again with that notes section and the 3-round average section as well. So going into next year, I'll always look to make constant improvements, and I'm always willing to take on feedback as well. For some reason, we have those really short turnarounds. I may need to revert back to the old system that I was using this year. But as I said, with all the videos that I make and all the content that I produce going into the future, I'll be always focusing on making the quality even better than what it's been this year. Because, yeah, it has been my first year doing this. And again, I will mention again, thank you very much for all the support that I have received. And, yeah, gone over that 1,000 subscriber mark really, really quickly, and certainly wasn't expecting anything like that. So thank you very, very much. But let's get into it anyway and discuss some of these players. At the top there, Seagull, well, you're paying for quality, aren't you? If you've got the cash, if you've got the trades, and you don't have him, then just get him into your side. It's pretty much as simple as that. Luke Ryan, he's got a really nice projected score there as well with that 132. He came back with a 115 in round 16, which was really, really nice. If you look at those round 16 scores from the top 5 players there, we've gone 114 plus, and for me, I take that every day of the week. Maybe for Seagull owners, that's a little bit disappointing because his average is 123, so we did go below his average here, but look, he's had a season to remember, so we really can't complain. Well, I won't say we, owners can't really complain that he's gone the 114 there. That's still okay, I think. Rory Laird, have really loved him as a pick. 122 last round. He's projected to go really close to that again with a 123. Blitzarves had a really nice round as well. How's that goal that he kicked? I think it was from about 60 metres, just kept on going, dribbled through in the end. Really good game from him. Love this bloke, Tom Stewart. Very, very likely that I'll start with this bloke next year, just due to his consistency. You can just rely on Tommy Stewart to go 100 plus most weeks. So he got that 123. He's been in that sort of mid-price defender range for probably the last month, and I've just been going buy now, best buy, best buy. And that's proved to be a really, really good call on the end in Tom Stewart. So if you're looking to get a defender in, he's playing Richmond, so yeah, that shouldn't matter too much with Stewie. I still think that he'll go that 100 plus. Luke McDonald, he's been a really good pod for those that got him probably midway through the season. If you started with him, you wouldn't have been wrapped because he gave you some really low scores at the start of the season. I think his spot was even in jeopardy at times, but he's got that roll down pat now, that sort of intercept roll. Gets those possessions. It's not necessarily an intercept role all the time, is it? But he's more that distributor, probably more like the Seagull role rather than the interceptor. Now that I say that, but yeah, look, what's his price? 555. So he's basically the same price as a Ryan and a Laird. So who would I go? Probably I like Rory Laird, just given the fact that he's in the midfield. But the other two picks I think are really solid as well. I'd probably go Laird, Ryan, then McDonald personally. May, yeah, only the 58, so I wouldn't be looking to bring him into the side. He's exactly the same price unless I've got that wrong, and maybe I have because I've been rushing through getting these tables done. Nick Haynes is the same price. I hope that that is correct. If it's not, apologies, but look, it's pretty easy. If you've got the choice between Haynes or May, I'll go with Haynes every day of the week. You can see that those averages there, 98, 106, so Haynes does have 8 points on him for the season average there. And yeah, in the last couple of rounds, has scored much better than May as well. If you haven't got over 500k to spend, then you'll need to look at some of our mid-price defenders here. You can see the man there at the top, Lukosius. Well, he's got the highest projected score, but you can see he's got the highest break even. Around 16 score of only 35. So that was really, really disappointing for anyone that brought him in. And yeah, I'm guessing that your score probably... well, his score probably didn't even count for your final 18, given the fact that it was a buy round. That may have been a bit of a blessing in disguise that it was a buy round, to be quite honest, for owners, though, come to think about it. Chris paired his buy last week, so he'll be fresh. The body will be feeling good. He's projected to go 107 with a 38 break even. The week before his buy, he had a really, really good game. Barris, he's been in some really, really good form in the past few weeks. He's someone that can go up and down, but he's the intercept king. I think he's almost taking over from McGovern down there at the Eagles at the moment. But low break even. Again, we don't need to worry too much about these break evens. But 112 last round, and he's projected to go above the ton again with a 105. I talk about this guy almost every week, how much I love him as a pick, but Adam Chera, 121, absolutely fantastic, this bloke. And again, will really, really seriously consider starting him in my side next year. I'm assuming that he gets back mid DPP, but that's just a guess at this stage. The Doc, he's projected to go 100. Sard had a poor score, didn't he, last round. Scrimshaw, nothing to write home about with an 80 there. Probably what you'd expect, even though he's projected to go with a 96 there. Maynard and Short, they had the buys. I did realise As soon as I looked at this, that projected score from short is out by 10 points. So that projected score should read 95 instead of 85. So apologies for that. And Ridley, yeah, again, up, down, up, down. He's lost that consistency, hasn't he, Ridley? But after a poor score, he does tend to bounce back. So it's probably a pretty safe pick to get onto Ridley if you haven't got him coming off that poor score because, yeah, more rounds than not, after a poor score, he's gone bang with a nice 100 plus. And the rest of the blokes in the mid-price section, we've got Shepherd there, break even of 99. Again, don't need to be too concerned with that, but had a bit of a poor score in round 16, but still projected to go 94 there. Yeah, love this pick. Love this pick. Probably the pick of the bunch for me, Caleb Daniel. Really low break even there. He'd lost a little bit of consistency over the past probably month and a half, but he had around 16 score of 118. Looked terrific, you know, elite disposal. We know everything about Daniel, so yeah, I'd highly recommend bringing him into the side if you need a defender this week around that 475 mark. Dawson, talk about a great month. He's been in great form as well. I'd just rather the Daniel pick, but I suppose if you haven't got that 476, he's certainly an option. Remember, he has that DPP status where he can be selected in your defence and in your forward lines as well. Hooley, this guy could be a really, really nice pick as well. I'd probably have him a little bit under a Daniel, I'd say, but low break even. He's come off his bye. Look, he hasn't played a lot of footy this year anyway, so did he really need that bye? I'm not too sure. Maybe it would have been better for Hooley not to have that bye and just have some consistency in his game that he really hasn't had this year with so much time off. But he is certainly an option, a serious option to look at 476. And the three blokes down the bottom, more value than anything. Well, when I say value, there's not a heap of value with Zach Bailey there. Don't really love the Hunter Clark pick, but again, someone just around that 385 mark, under 400. Same as someone like a Weller. You'd only go there if you're really desperate. But I do like the Rich pick. I don't mind this at 394. I know that Birchall was out last week. He will be coming in this week, and maybe Witherden may even come in this week, depending on what they do with Starcevic maybe. Berry's out as well. Maybe Reece Matheson comes in. He's a mid-forward, so I probably should have had him on the list. I actually don't have him on the list this week. But yeah, keep your ears out for Reece Matheson because he's played, I think, the one game this year. Might have been 2 games. He may have played round 1 and been dropped after that. But I know the last round, I think it was about a 113. I know it was 100 plus. So keep him in mind for your forward line just while I'm thinking of him. But yeah, for the mid-prices here, I really like the Daniel, Hooley and Rich picks personally. On to the midfielders, 500k plus. So you see there, pretty much no surprises that Jack McRae is projected to get the highest score out of all of our premium midfielders for this week with a 136. Remember, just projected. I'll keep on repeating that. Certainly no guarantees that he's obviously going to come out and pull out a 136. But the interesting thing, when I first look at this page, is the lack of one person's name. My man Lachie Neale. So he's not even projected to go past 118 this week. We'll have a look at him on the next page. But you can see Matty Crouch there. 148 in round 16. He's had a terrific last 5 weeks. And you can see that he's projected to get a 135 as well. So pretty safe that he'll get you a pretty decent score, I think, Matty Crouch. Just finding the ball again. Sam Menengola, well, tell you what, really underrated, this bloke. He's just one of those utilities that can go back, go forward, play time through the midfield, inside, outside. He's a bit of a jack of all trades. So Sam Menengola at 552 after his score last week. If you're looking for a pod to finish off the side or to go somewhere a little bit different as compared to one of your league opponents this week, then he could be a bit of a shout-out, Sam Menengola. Danger, spewing I didn't put the vice captaincy on him last week. This bloke's hit form. I don't think they're going to rest him in the forward line this week. Really big match for them up against the Tigers. So I think that you'll find Danger right there in the middle. And if you look at the scoring history this year, most of the mids that come up against the Richmond side tend to score pretty well. So I'll be looking to maybe whack that VC myself on Danger this week. Boak, well, he was my new recruit this week and absolutely wrapped. You can see he got a 149 there. So he's looking to have a projected score at 128. Same as Guthrie. Amazing. He actually got tagged last week, so received a lot of attention. And that probably speaks a fair bit about how he's actually going at the moment. Merritt, he's continued on with his great form over the last month with 122. Sam Walsh, hasn't he absolutely come from the clouds? I think you may have heard Jords and I talking about the fact that we rate Bailey Smith maybe a little bit higher than Walsh, but yeah, he's got a few things to say about at the moment. I know different types of players, but yeah, look at that score from last week, 161, and he finds himself at 569 now. So really, really pushing towards that 600 mark. If we had, another month of the season, I think he could probably get there, Sam Walsh. And who knows, with another massive score on the weekend, his break-even's only 51. So in really good form, Sam Walsh. Ollie Wines, I thought this bloke was a little bit of a trap, but he's continued on with some pretty solid form. But again, he's a bit of a roller coaster, can give you a couple of really low scores. So a bit of a risky pick for mine. I'd be looking to certainly go with Boak over Wines if you've got the choice between those two blokes. Bont, he only got a 106 last week, so pretty low for him after his amazing last 5 weeks. Zorko, Captain Zorko, geez, didn't he come back? Normally Miller goes to either him or Lockie Neal for the Q clashes, but he didn't receive basically any attention, Zorko, and did as he pleased. Looked really, really good, so really exciting for Brisbane supporters in particular that he came back to form. And Jack Steele, only 111, so I say only because, his average is 121, played really well throughout the whole season. I know a few people that did chuck either the captain or the vice-captain on him, so that would have been a little bit disappointing, but yeah, if you didn't have the captaincy on him, it wouldn't have been too bad, I don't think, the 111 there. He's projected to go around the 118 mark. And then our last list of midfielders, 500k and over. You can see that all of them, apart from last 3 there, Dunkley, Duncan and Gaff, are projected to go below 100. Everyone else is projected to go, well, as you can see from Titch and above, 105 plus. Dunkley, geez, didn't he come back to form last week? Didn't take the ruck. That was English's duty. So, yeah, isn't it great to see actually Tinglish playing the ruck for a change? Wonderful. So, yeah, he came out with a big bang. I'll look to start this bloke, I think, next year. He'll definitely be in high consideration because I actually did start him this year. Go back up the top a little bit. Yeah, really disappointing round from Fife last round, but he's still projected to go 117 plus. Really good round there from Lockie Neal. Didn't he hit form? To be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure why he's only projected to go to 110. Is that because they assume he's going to be tagged? I'm not quite sure, but I think you should be still pretty confident chucking the VC tag or the captaincy tag on him. Are we playing, it's either Sydney or Carlton this weekend? I'm not too sure. Should have done my research on that. But if it's Carlton, maybe a Curnow tag could be coming for him. If that's the case, he may score a little bit lower. I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, for a projection of only 110 after the season that he's had, after the week that he had last week, yeah, I'd be hoping that that would be a little bit higher. David Mundy, 138 last week. I sort of called his name out a few times over the last month because the old fella's been spending a little bit more time in the midfield. Walters has now gone forward, spending a lot more time there. Had a really big impact on the forward line, though, last week, Walters, and snagged a few goals, which is really, really nice for him and his owners and Freo fans, as well. Cripper there, yeah, up and down. Wouldn't be chucking the captaincy or the vice-captaincy on him this week. Jed Anderson, he's a real pod. Clary, he's got a high break-even, but we don't take the break-even into consideration because we'll be keeping him for the rest of the year for the last 2 weeks, obviously. So, again, don't take too much notice of the break-evens there. It doesn't matter too much. Titch, yeah, well, I was expecting more from him. Only a 94. And I think that'll pretty much wrap us up with the 500k plus midfielders. On to the mid-price midfielders. So, the 2 blokes up the top there, geez, pretty identical in price and projections, aren't they? So you've got Setterfield and Libba, who are projected to go the highest out of this bunch with a 117 and a 115. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Scores from last round, Setterfield 107, Libba 98. So, yeah, in decent form, I suppose. Yeah, surprising Setterfield is close to 500. He's had a pretty good last few weeks, I think. Carl Amon, he's flown under the radar a little bit over the last few weeks also. Round 16 score of 128. That's why he's got a really low break-even there. 430k. If you're looking for a super pod, then you could go with someone like a Carl Amon. Dylan Shield and Cogs, pretty disappointing. Yeah, look at those round 16 scores. 69 and 78. That's why I tend to avoid picks like this. In saying that, I ended up trading in someone like a Luke Shuey and a Jack Viney, which I wouldn't normally do in most years. So I don't love these picks, and I think there's probably some better value out there. But again, they do have a pretty high ceiling. So Cogs could come out and go absolutely ballistic, and Shield could get his 35 possessions, hopefully use it well, and maybe go 130 plus as well. So up to you there, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of those two picks, to be quite honest. Parker, he's remained a pod throughout most of the season. Higgins, again, not many people have him. Sloan, he went over the 100 last round, so I suppose he'd go worse than him. The Crouchers are hitting form. You can see Brad there with 105. We've already talked about Matt before. Jack Viney, 137, so he's hit form again. He's not one of those blokes that tends to be really consistent with those scores. We saw probably a 4 or 5 week patch where he was able to do that, but apart from that, he has been a little bit up and down. Josh Kennedy, well, yeah, 81 in round 16. Owners would have been hoping for a little bit more than that. We know he's an old warhorse. Does he have another year in him? I hope that he does for Sydney fans, but yeah, he does seem to be slowing up a little bit there. And Taranto, he has been extremely, extremely disappointing. But on the bright side, I think he could be a really, really good value starting pick next year. So I'm obviously not Nona, and I'm hoping that he gets a couple of terrible scores to end the season with, because we'll be able to pick him up in our midfields at a really nice price next year as one of those real breakout options. I know that you could argue he has already broken out, particularly last year, but for the price that we're going to be paying for him, hopefully, if he doesn't go nuts in the last 2 rounds, I think that'll be really, really good looking towards next year. Tim Kelly, he's been an absolute yo-yo, hasn't he? Up, down, up, down. His break-even's been green, red, green. It's just been all over, just like my speech here. It's been all over the shop this year, so would be really, really frustrating if you had have started with Tim Kelly and kept on to him for the season. And SBS, just throwing a really cheap option out there. Carlton supporters have been extremely frustrated with this pick, and you can see his price, 304,000. Some people started this bloke mainly in their defensive lines as a real pod. Remember, he does have that DPP. Probably should have had him with the defenders there, but I did just want to include a really, really cheap option closer to that 300k mark. He got 112 last round, but if you look at that average of 72, that's been pretty poor, to be quite honest, over the last month. But if you think he can replicate that form from last week, then 112, yeah, isn't out of the realms of possibility, but he's projected to only go a 59 there. So onto the Rucks. So as you can see, the list is a little bit small this week. I've really only focused on those realistic options that we'd look to bring in to finish our side. If you're looking for quality and a captaincy option each week, then get Max Gawn into your side. He is 674,000, which is a lot of coin. I do understand that, but you are paying up for absolute quality. I would have loved to get Gawn into my side, but funds and trades just didn't allow it in the end, which was a little bit frustrating, given the fact that I had traded him in, traded him out about 5 weeks or so ago, whenever most of us got him out. His break-even's only 126, but again, we don't really need to focus too much on the break-evens. It's more that projected score. And remember, you need to sometimes make up your own projections as well. Just don't take these projections here for gospel. I will keep on reminding people about that, as I said. So if you're looking for quality, you've got the cash, you've got the trades, Max Gawn is the man to get into your side. Now, Nick Nat, I'm not sure if he's coming off purely a rest or if he did have a little bit of a niggle. If he was coming off just a rest, I would recommend getting him into your side. I'd still rather Max Gawn, don't get me wrong, but as a second option, I'd be looking at Nick Nat. He's under 600k. His last round, well, he didn't play the last week. Round before that was obviously a little bit disappointing, but given the fact that he's had a rest, if his body's right, I think he could be a really solid selection. Robbie's the bloke that I brought into my side last week, had to compromise on that Gawn selection, and I was really happy. I thought at 3/4 time he could be looking for a 125 plus score. He was in the 90s, but yeah, only ended up with that 105, as we can see there. I was, wanting a little bit more, but again, with a Rob at 105, what I paid for him, just over 500k, I think it was 505, I'm really happy with that, to be quite honest, and not a bad compromise on Gawn, because I did manage to get Boak into the side as well, and he scored a 149, which is really, really handy. Marshall, Goldie, Goldie's looking a little bit slow, isn't he? Had a really great start to the season, But that average that you can see there, 116, terrific average, but at the start of the season, that was closer to a 130 over the first sort of 8 weeks, so that has gone down a little bit there. Paddy Ryder, yeah, bit of a risk. Wouldn't be going there, to be quite honest. Jacobs had a really solid game on the weekend. He actually played Rob. I thought Rob got the chocolates there, but looking at the scores of 127, yeah, it seems like Champion Data favoured Source's game over Rob's game, which I thought, yeah, I was a little bit surprised with anyway. And Tinglish, well, isn't it amazing what this bloke can do when he actually spends time in the ruck? Amazing. So a 132, I think that he'll be spending time in the ruck during the next 2 weeks of the SuperCoach season. So if you're looking for an ultra value pick and you just don't have the cash to spend, then Tinglish could be a man to bring into your side, because Dunkley and McRae aren't rucking too much anymore, and I don't think they will for the rest of the season. And last man I've got on the list there. Now, I'm not sure if Laddams comes in this week. He is eligible to come in this week. I'm not too sure about that, but I wouldn't be getting any of them, to be quite honest. I wouldn't be getting a Lysett in. I'd much rather be looking at someone like a Tinglish or paying that little bit more for a Rob, but he is an option, I suppose. What did he get last round? Only a 76, so the lowest score out of all the ruckmen there. He's only projected to get the 83 as well. On to the premium forwards. Haven't these guys been roller coasters over the last 2 to 3 weeks? So look at those round 16 scores. 172, 118, 140, 120, 121, 128, and Dusty obviously had the bye. So the lowest score we had from any of our 500k plus premiums that played last week was a 118 from Andy Brayshaw. And look, to be honest, we'd take that every day of the week from any one of our forwards. Well, I would anyway, in my own opinion. So we'll look at the man up the top there. Tommy Hawkins, this guy just has a massive, massive ceiling. We've already seen him get close to 200 this year already, and he came back with another massive score, 172. He's projected to get a 128. If you've got the cash, he's playing Richmond this week. So we know that Grimes is out. I think that he's out. I don't know if he's coming back in or not. I think that he is out. So who will he get? Bolter. Is Broad playing? I'm not too sure. Yeah, depending on his matchup, he'll be a really interesting pick this week, Tom Hawkins. But we know that the Tigers are a really, really solid side, and I wouldn't be expecting Tomahawk to go that really, really big score this week against the Tigers. Really, whoever's in and out of their defence, I don't think that matters a lot with the Tigers, because they rely more on their system more than anything, I think. Andy Brayshaw, well, he's projected to go the 104. Isn't that interesting, though? When you look at these projected scores from this week, the highest projection is a 128, yet we had all these big, nice 100 scores last week. So again, these projected scores, at times I think we need to take with a little bit of a grain of salt. For example, Track, project at 103. I can't see that myself. I think he'll go a little bit better than that. Does he get tagged? Yeah, could be an issue. Could be a big issue. Maybe that's why he's got that projected score there. I'm not too sure. But Robbie Gray, look at that break even, 36. I actually had the trap on this bloke, so apologies to anyone that was looking to get him in. I just didn't see it coming. He's just been too up and down for my liking anyway. But he said, bugger you, DR, as these players often do. They'll give a little bit of a spray in the stock market videos, and he's had, yeah, a really, really solid month. So he's projected to go 100 plus. Lockie Whitfield, geez, wasn't this looking like an absolute disaster, particularly at quarter time, and then even at three-quarter time? I think he was below 60 from memory. So for him to come out with a 121, that just goes to show that he had a massive last score, to doubled his score from three-quarter time. So I just can't understand why teams just don't lock this guy down when he starts to go nuts. As soon as he's got those first 4 possessions, if I was an opposition coach, just lock him down. Just lock him down. Get someone to play that defensive role, wear him like a glove, try to take him away from the play. This is obviously coming from a non-owner, obviously. So, yeah, I'll say it once more. Killed me every week not having this bloke. So, yeah, congratulations if you got on Whitfield at the right time. Huey Greenwood, I've loved this guy's season as well. Just never managed to get on him. I'd planned to get on him at a couple of different stages during the season, but just didn't happen. So you can select this guy with some pretty good confidence. Only projected to go 95, but if you look at his round 16 score, that was really nice with that 128. And to be completely honest, I don't know what's going to happen with Dusty. He could give us a 60, an 80, 100, a 120, or it could go up to a 160. So I'm not going to make any sort or type of predictions with Dusty. He'll give us what Dusty gives us. On to the mid-price forward. So if you're looking for a little bit of value in your forward line, here's the place you need to look. So we can see the projected scores there that we've only got one player in Darcy Parish that's projected to go over the ton this week. Then we go down to a Baz at a 95, all the way down to a Cameron who's projected to get 53. The reason why I've got the projected scores of Simpkin and Jack Martin in red are because they're both under some injury clouds. We know that Simpkin obviously suffered from concussion, I'm an owner, and then Jack Martin did a calf, I'm an owner. Well, when I say did a calf, apparently there was just a little bit of tightness, so it was precautionary, and I reckon that he may be a chance this week, but I certainly wouldn't be looking to bring him into the side at this stage. Baz, I really like as a pick. The two blokes that I'll be looking at personally, because I've got Jack Martin, who I don't think will play with that tight calf. He's at 391, so I've got to go under that. So the three options I'm probably looking at are either LDU, Wingard, or Akers. So I do like those three picks. You know that I'm not a fan of Wingard. Never have been, never will be. But yeah, he had a nice round last round with a 111. LDU is someone I'll be looking at really, really closely. That 129, he looked really, really good, finding the pill. We know he was an early draft pick, been a little bit disappointing in some people's eyes, but hopefully for North Melbourne supporters, this is the start of, I suppose, his next growth, I suppose you'd say. And the other man there, Blake Acres, interested with him because he's gone 2 scores of 100 plus in the last couple of weeks, playing that different role, getting the ball. I like him as a pick, actually, so yeah, it's probably LDU or Akers for me at this stage. But remember, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Chad. I just don't rate him as a pick. If you've got even less cash than that, then you could even be looking at a Connor Rosie. He got a 109 last round. He's projected to go 76, but if you can think he can continue that form on from last week and get another 100 plus score, then he could be someone you could look to bring in if you are absolutely desperate. The other blokes there, yeah, Green, I was expecting so much more from him last week. I wouldn't have been surprised if he went 120 plus last week, Green, but didn't GWS just as a whole have just a shocker. And well done to Adelaide. Yeah, congratulations. I said the last week that they were in good form. I know it would only been 1 week, 1 win, sorry, but they certainly continued that on. So, yeah, well done to the Crows, and yeah, it's great for any supporters of Adelaide towards the end of the year to get a little bit of success anyway. But I don't really like any of the picks sort of under that. So if you're looking for quality, I'd be going probably with a Baz or a Parish. Walters did come back last week, but remember, he's spending time in the forward line. But personally, I'm looking at probably Akers or LDU in place for Jack Martin. But again, that's just a personal situation where I need to get rid of a Martin. So I think that'll do us for this week, guys. As I said, in regards to the rookies, my best advice there is just to check out the team sheets as they become available. If you're not really desperate for an on-field option or you're not desperate for cover, you've already got 1 or 2 blokes on the bench there that will be warm bodies for you. My best advice is just to look for as much value as you can and go down to one of those 102k options. That's probably the best advice I can give in regards to the rookies. Stay tuned as well for the upcoming podcast. We are getting together very, very shortly. That'll be SuperCoach Jords, myself, and Spillers SuperCoach. We'll be doing a quick Q&A session, and then Spills and I will do a bit of a follow-up podcast, and that will be more of a yearly review and have a chat about maybe some of the lessons that we've learned during this year, what we're looking forward to next year, and maybe some sneaky starting picks to look at in 2021. Also, stay tuned for the round review from round 16 as well. I obviously haven't got to that yet. I just really wanted to get the stock market video out ASAP as usual for everyone. But stay tuned for that. And I'll see you next week for the last stock market video of the year. Take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.